where Bob is. Bob Wilson. They haven't passed him through here, and I'm having to do a monologue. That's what's going on. But Ambassador Dodd, this is not Norman Dodd, it's a different, I think it's William Dodd, but he was the American ambassador to Germany in 1936. He writes this letter, which we have a copy of, to Colonel House saying, why are the American corporations building up the German war machine? So the people back at home know that there are no profits to be made because of exchange controls. Nobody here wants another war. And then everything points to the fact we're going to have a war. Why is this happening? Well, of course, Colonel House knew, but the last thing they wanted was for the people of the United States to know we were planning another terrible war. Well, this is Dr. Stan. Bob was just saying that the Treasury Department, apparently, or either after the Fed, I'm sure he'll clarify this, has recently asked for public comment on the idea of rolling the pension funds over to annuities. Now, of course, what this is, obviously, is some sort of a scam so that the government can get their hands on your pension fund if it's in a 401k or IRA. Would that be a fair estimate, Bob?
Right. And
now, who is it? Is it the Fed or is it the Treasury? Or is it both of them?
No, the Fed's not in on this. At least not that we can see. It is the Treasury Department and the Labor Department. Now, if you go back to 2008, the budget deficit was $450 billion. If you took away the money that was put into the general fund, the deficit was $5.1 trillion. Now, that is really incredible. I've never seen those figures before. I got them from John Williams. But getting back to the proposal at hand, they have wanted, ever since testimony about 16, 17 months ago, that the way to fix the Social Security situation was to take the retirement funds, the government takes them over, gives everybody a credit or bonds.
You're talking about the private pension funds.
Private, 401ks,
okay,
IRAs and Roths and so on.
All right. Now, it would only be the government-mediated ones. It wouldn't be the corporate ones, or those fit into the 401k. I guess they do, don't they?
Well, the government has its own plan, and so they're not talking about doing anything with that. They're talking only about corporate and individual ones.
Why do they put if such a good deal? Why do they put the congressman's retirement in there and the federal employees' funds in there? Because they got a lot more money probably than the private people. I mean, actually,
well, only 19% of corporations have retirement plans, and then there's an additional amount, which I don't know the percentage of, that have 401ks. The point here is that the Treasury is broke, and they need money. And so I don't know what they're going to do, but they want to roll money from those accounts into the Treasury, and they're going to give them what they call annuities. And, of course, the annuities aren't worth anything because the government's bankrupt. And as an aside, if you look at all the money that is in the IRAs alone, that would, if taken into the Social Security plan, would make up the deficit. And this may be what they're after. But anyway, this is guesses at this time. And so were they to do that, it would be an act of theft, of course, but our government or any government could care less about theft or about the people. They just did that in Argentina, incidentally. And so this is now hanging over the heads of people who have retirement plans.
Okay.
And where it's going to go, I don't know, but it's not good.
Well, certainly Medicare is bankrupt. I think Social Security runs out of money later this year. But in other words, there'll be more money going out than coming in on the Ponzi scheme, and so they've got to do something, and they can't tell the American people the truth. There is no money in these trust accounts. All there are government bonds. But the government doesn't have any money, and the government's having to go out and borrow the money to make up for the money they've stolen from the trust fund. So that's why we're running such massive deficits, isn't it, Bob?
Right. And, we have a war that's costing us billions of dollars every year. And we have a administration like the previous two and the 2 and 4 or 5 before that. They spend money like wild in wild abandon, and so they just don't care. They would do what they want to do, which is bust the U.S. And that's why I believe that we're going to test 7118 on that USDX index, which is 6 major currencies versus the dollar. And I think it's going to be broken this year. And we could get down to 40, 50, 60, somewhere in there.
Cool.
And that's why I said previously that over the next year and a half, I expect that there will be an official devaluation and default, and it will be multilateral in nature. The nations are going to get together and revalue, devalue, and default. And it's coming just as sure as the sun rises in the morning.
Well, yeah,
that's why it's so important to be in gold and silver-related assets.
I thought it was amazing to see what happened to gold over the weekend. I think it closed on Friday at 1,130.31, somewhere there. It opened this morning at 1,150.55, somewhere there. Closed at 1,150, but that was a big move over the weekend. And certainly silver is doing very well. In fact, in the last 2 weeks, gold and silver, since you said it was going to go up, boy, has it gone up. I'm quite impressed.
Well, I think it was due for a correction. It was expedited by our government. And that's the way things work today. And so I knew where it was going to go, and it went where I thought it would go. And now it's going back up again. And there's a technical resistance level and went through today like it wasn't even there. And I'm guessing now, but I think, the U.S. government has imposed steel tariffs as of last week and on the Chinese. And I think the Chinese have said, well, we're going to teach a lesson here. And I think they were in the gold market buying. And I also think they were banging the dollar down. Not that it's to their great advantage at all. It's not. But I think they wanted to give them a taste of what they can really do to them. And I think that's part of the strength, at least in gold and silver. And, of course, our government came in toward the end of the day and banged it. Gold was up about close to $25 early on, ended up about $12.80, and the outside month was about $12.90, so they're right in line. But they tried to hold the gain down, which they normally do, and silver was up 37 cents and ended up about 13 or 14. And so they were active in there, and that's one of the things we've got to stop. We have to get rid of this working group on financial markets, and the only way we're going to do that is to get rid of these incumbents in the House and the Senate, and at the same time get legislation passed to audit and investigate the Fed so that we can have a chance at surviving within our legal framework.
Well, I'm really concerned about what you just started out mentioning. It sounds like they're really going to take away the pensions of all these people who worked all of their lives. And what do you think they'll do as far as the pension funds for state and municipal employees? Will they be included in this rollover into government-backed annuities that are as safe and backed by the full faith and integrity of President Obama, a man of great personal integrity?
Well, first of all, I don't know. Second of all, I can guess. Third of all, I know Mr. Obama's citizenship case is in the Supreme Court right now, and I think he's got a problem. I'm going to ask him why he posed as Barry Soetoro, foreign student, for his Fulbright grant at Occidental University. That should be quite interesting. He spent almost $1 million in legal fees stopping this sort of thing for the last year, but there's so many lawsuits that he just can't get around it. And but coming back to the pension profit sharing situation in America,